If you could be Black, Hispanic, or East Asian for 1 year, which would you be?
What? What kind of question is that?
I don't know. That's why I laughed. I guess.
Because if you say one, you can't answer a question like that without there's some type of driving force for answering that. That's not just a random pick.
Okay, fine. You want driving force? I'd be.
So back to what I was saying.
What's up, friends, family, and fans? Welcome to Life on Podcast. This is where you already know. We listen and inspire friends in entertainment.
And everywhere.
Why? Because life happens to everyone. So you guys may recognize this face. He is back. We don't have a whole lot of return guests.
We don't.
Leslie Brathwaite.
Yeah, Leslie's done too. That's it.
And I think that's it.
That might be the only one.
Wow.
Flattered.
Rob's coming back, so we will have another. Rob's gonna come back.
Rob Hardy?
Yeah, and
he is. He did agree to come back.
So there we
yeah.
go. We'll
Look, it has nothing to do with no one we invited back. You were amazing. We wouldn't have had you on here if we didn't think you were amazing. But it gets a little more personal sometimes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes these things get a little personal. There's a connection, and you're that guy.
Yeah,
you're that guy, man. So we're gonna talk about some. I don't want to say we're gonna pick up from whenever that episode
No, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do how you tried.
But I do have a lot of stuff I want to ask.
I know, but
you remember, right?
Let's do how you tried to start the last episode. We'll say, Zach, let's give everybody a brush up on who you are, what you've done. Let's run down some of the businesses, and then we'll get into this conversation.
Go ahead.
You did that awfully well.
Do that. Do whatever he just said. All right, Zach. Who is Zach?
Oh man. Well, serial entrepreneur, founder. At this point,
I'm gonna pause you right there.
Yeah.
Serial entrepreneur. Can we define that? Because people think that just because you start a business, I mean, I know maybe by dictionary definition, you might be a serial entrepreneur, but to me, like, if the business don't do nothing.
Well, yeah, the serial part is important, right?
Yeah.
And that's serial with an S, not a C. But the person that starts a business, and this is the key distinction, the person that starts a business that, is their identity and livelihood for the broader part of their life and hasn't started anything else, which is fine. There are people you take Dan Cathy, founder of Chick-fil-A, right? Or Truett Cathy, rather. Truett Cathy is an incredible powerhouse of a founder. He's not a serial entrepreneur, though. Right? And Jeff Bezos is not a serial entrepreneur. He's an entrepreneur, he's a founder. But that's the distinction. And it's important because when you're a serial entrepreneur, you typically are building businesses with the objective of scaling them and likely selling them.
Right.
These are not businesses that are necessarily built to be part of my life forever.
That's a very good distinction.
And that's important.
Yeah.
I've been in food delivery, I've been in tech, I've been in cannabis, I have been in e-com and digital marketing and manufacturing, and I've moved from these different industries. That's what is the key distinction.
So it really is a mentality. Like, you go into these things knowing I'm going in to eventually get out. Not I'm going in, I plan to stay here, but for whatever reason, I had to get out.
Correct.
Like a serial opportunity. Like, that's the plan. The plan is to go in, grow it, get out.
Because I don't necessarily want to spend 20 years doing just one thing. And there's plenty of debate, right, wrong, and frankly, in this stage of my life now, having spent 10, 12 years doing all kinds of different things, I'm finding myself honing in much more on what I really want to do and asking myself, what am I okay with committing to for 5 to 10 years versus 2 to 5 years? And that's changing a little bit. But yeah, I'm still, I'm always going to be a pirate captain. That's who I am.
I've always found it interesting when you get those different debates from different business leaders and entrepreneurs when they'll say this is the right way or the wrong way. I do remember something very distinct you said in the last episode in the rapid fire where you said the thing that you fear the most is dying unfulfilled. And to me, there is no wrong way to do business. If it's fulfilling in that moment, whether it's a 2 to 5 year plan, whether it's a 5 to 10 or 10 to 20 year plan, if it's fulfilling and you're getting that rush you need, that consistent dopamine hit that we all crave so much from winning, there is no wrong way to do it. How do you're saying, so I don't even ask you how do you viewpoint that, because I think you just agree with everything I just said.
No, I
so
do.
how are you going to do that? So let's get back to these businesses that you got, that steamrolled over. What else have you done?
How did I steamroll over?
Y'all just want to arm wrestle? We can just do that. Built DocMJ. That was now it's the largest issuer of medical cannabis cards in the world. I exited that when I was 23.
Right on.
And
what was the valuation of that when you?
Can't
Can't
say
even
it,
can't say.
Yeah,
Well, it's all good.
Nice try though. I like you did that.
That look, I did well. It was a
Yeah.
it was a good exit. Yeah, and start to finish, I was in the business for about a year, so it was a big run.
These quick turnarounds you do, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the rapidness of the scaling is what's got me freaking mind blown.
Well, Doc, look, there's 16 good hours in a day.
Yeah.
All right. Now, in my early 20s, one of the best things the realizations that I had was I can only control how smart I am. I can't control how much experience I have because I only have so much.
Right.
So all I can do is throw myself headlong into my work, into my businesses, and I've still lived like a very colorful and rich life. But I knew that I needed as many reps as quickly as possible as I could get. So day in and day out, it was always, all right, what's the game plan? How do we grow this thing? How do we handle operational issues? If I have to, work through the night, I'll do that. And now I find myself at 29 and, I had a full head of hair when this all started. I shave it. But the point is, I paid the price, but I now have, 30, 40,000 work hours under my belt.
Right.
Yeah.
What is it, the 10,000 hour rule to mastery? I wouldn't agree with that, or at least in this space, it's tens of thousands of hours. But I picked up 30 years of experience in 10.
Yeah.
So that kind of informs the pace at which I'm moving.
And I like that you started when you were like 17, 18.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, especially in music, like the light didn't go off for me, so I was probably 40, to be honest with you. And I still believe that the whole it's never too late. I get it. But yeah, do I wish? Sure I do. You know what I mean? Because I can't say that I valued my time when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even now, I just came to think, so it went from valuing my time to being productive, always working, da-da-da. And now as you get older, time becomes much more of a valuable commodity.
Yeah, that's right.
And so now I'm learning that I seek to find value in my time instead of productivity in my time. So now every move I make matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even to the point with this podcast, you said something on the last episode, how you parlay one thing into the next. We finally kind of, or at least I did for my thing, he's creating a new avenue for himself.
Yeah.
But for me, like my whole thing is coaching, the business coaching and stuff, which is a speaking thing. So at first we were seeing this podcast as a standalone. We got to make this podcast big. But I'm like, no, this podcast serves a purpose to bring my audience to me. So what you said a lot of stuff that hit a lot of nails on the head.
I think a lot of this ties back to, and for people who are listening, either who have kids or who are just younger and in the earlier parts of their life, as time goes on, you start to realize how fleeting all of it is, right? But what I said in that rapid fire about dying unfulfilled, right? The word dying probably is a fear for most people, but it's not just dying; it's dying and not having served my purpose.
Absolutely.
When I was
So I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said it. No, because don't look
no,
at me
no,
like
no.
you was somebody's uncle.
No, just wait for just come on.
Because when you first said it, immediately I was thinking fulfilling your purpose. But then I had to slow myself down because being fulfilled doesn't automatically equate to fulfilling your purpose.
Correct.
Sure.
And I wanted to know which way you meant, or did you mean it both ways?
Yeah, people look at that very differently. I had this executive coaching group come in and did this exercise with my whole C-suite, and it talked about each person's priorities in life, right? Their number one and number two, and things like be happy or amass power or maintain independence. There were like 9 things, and you had like primary to secondary. And me and my business partner are very different people. My childhood best friend, been friends for 20 odd years, and his were be happy and live like a unique and creative life or whatever it is. My 2 were tied to purpose and contribution and my own independence and freedom.
Okay.
And we looked at each other and we both knew they were right because I know him and he knows me, but it never struck me because he turns to me and goes, what do you mean like your life's mission is to, build power and whatever. I go, what do you mean your life's mission is to be happy? What a foreign concept to me, because what I've realized was that happiness for me is a byproduct. It's not the destination, right? When we talk about dying unfulfilled, for me, I feel like I've been given a number of gifts and privileges in my life that leave me with an obligation to go and contribute back to the world. And so that's sort of my purpose. I am happy as a byproduct of achieving that. but I don't optimize for happiness.
Right.
And this blew him away. For me, if I die and, I'm 100 years old and they bury me and they go, what a miserable guy, but damn it, he changed the world. Like, he did such amazing things. Like that it's not eternal, but like, that means a whole lot more to me. And I will, in that respect, have died happy, knowing that I contributed to other people's lives and gave back to the world. If people go, man, that guy was just cheery as hell, didn't do anything, but he always had a smile. That for me would be a bad way to be remembered.
That actually, so I had an actual question that came out of that, but I want to add one to it if you can answer both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
The question from that is that obviously when we're building anything and you get laser focused like any of us have had to do, you've probably out-focused me and Stone combined 10 times over. You sacrifice certain things. There are things you give up, whether it's family, whether it's time with friends, whether it's personal life. I'm experiencing that now. A lot of what I was talking about offline about scaling back was so that I could not miss these 9 to 17 years for my son because I'm gone from home a lot. What are those things that you've sacrificed, and is there any regret tied to it? And then, you know what? Let's do that first, and then I'll toss the second question in later. I don't want to double stack those. I think this is a big one.
Look, I've had a very gratifying and fulfilling, personally fulfilling decade of life moving into business. And I'm almost stammering a little bit as I think about it because a lot of the things I've wanted to do, I've done. When I was 21, I put together a bucket list for my 20s, and I did all the things. Some of them were silly. I wanted to buy a Bentley. Why I specifically wanted that, I don't know. But I became a pilot. I bought a plane. I bought a house. I went to 25 countries. I lost 100 pounds. I think that when we go and look at sacrifice, your sacrifices in your life feel painful or feel like they're taking away or a push-pull because work itself is drowning you and forcing you to make those decisions. I've been pretty hesitant to not commit in areas that aren't of the greatest importance to me. So I had a very focused list of things that mattered to me and things that I wanted to do. All the little stuff I'm okay having not done. There's a lot of little things. There's a lot of lake days that I haven't had, or a lot of whatever. I mean, I don't know what that is for somebody else.
Sure.
But prioritizing that and saying, if these are the 5 or 10 things that I want to do or areas where I really want to pour attention into, and I'm okay with losing all the little stuff, that's the best suggestion that I can make.
So do you find joy in those things, would you say?
Yeah, the big things.
So question is not a setup, but just to get another opinion.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference between joy and happiness?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
what would the difference be for you?
To me, joy has a level of spontaneity to it. Joy has a level of randomness. I don't think you can wake up and choose to be joyful that day, but you can wake up and choose to be happy. To me, happiness is a lot more of a, it's the difference between oxytocin and dopamine. Joy is tied to dopamine in my view, and it's not a direct comparison, and this isn't my space.
No, this makes sense though.
But joy is fleeting, but that underlying happiness, right? That satisfaction and contentment, that's a choice. You can make that.
Okay.
Interesting. Joy is fleeting. I would have put that at happy. So I always tell him, because you've met Stone and Johnny now. So to me, I always say joy. I always find, for me, joy is the primary purpose because I get joy from stuff like doing what means a lot for me, doing things that fulfill me. So to me, joy is internal. It's something that doesn't change with the external circumstances. To me, happiness is externally motivated. So if the weather's bad, I'm not happy. But if the weather can be bad, and I can still be joyful. So
You're joyful when the weather's bad?
I can be.
It's interesting. I can be happy. I can't be joyful.
So, for example, let's say you're doing a project or a business endeavor that you get fulfilled out of, right? It doesn't matter how much the stuff sucks. I don't think you're like, oh, skip to the loo, this sucks, I love it.
Yeah.
Happiness, right? But it doesn't deter you and it doesn't take away the energy and the passion and what I call the joy of doing whatever it is you did. So the storm's out there, but you're still steady, you're still good, you're still good. You know what I mean? But then when the external things changes, and that's why I agree with you when you said happiness is a byproduct, and it can come and go with the wind. But to me, the joy is. But the thing is, what brings you that joy is the question. So we have these back and forths on that. So I wanted to kind of get your take on that.
I think I probably gravitate more towards your explanation of it. When we've had that conversation 10 times. I don't feel like doing it today.
Yeah.
But I definitely can resonate more with how you said it, because me and Stone are just we're polars on that one.
Sure.
Yeah, he's
the
toxic
second part of that question is because of where you are now. Obviously, over a decade, you can identify what the regrets are.
Sure.
You can see the points where I could have, should have, maybe, but you made the choice to do what you did, and you're at a pinnacle now. I don't even know if you can call it a pinnacle, but you've exited these businesses now.
Yeah.
It's a different chapter.
Yeah.
You get to write whatever's next. Right. What's that perspective that's been drawn for you with that past experience that you're going to apply? Because obviously the viewpoint you had at 17, 18, 19 when everything was starting is completely different. I mean, you just said within the last couple of years you've had to learn things exponentially faster than if you didn't. So your view's different now.
Yeah.
How are you approaching it differently, whether it's business or life? Are you looking more for a balance, as we kind of talked about, or are you going to lean more towards focusing on those things that you sacrificed the first time around?
I think the priorities are shifting. And where in your 20s you don't have to think about health you should, but you kind of don't have to. You can work all night and all day, and you can do that for 4 or 5 days at a time, and get one night of sleep, and you're okay. Now the winds are shifting, but I also now have experience. There are things I know. There are questions that I was faced with before where to get to the right answer, I just had to try it 5 different ways. I know the right way now. That is the key difference. And so it's me figuring out, all right, I don't have to live at a 100-hour work week, which is where I was for a long time. I can be at 60 hours a week, which for most people still feels like a lot, but if this is your sport and that's how I feel, that's how much I'm going to practice and play. Having said all that, when I look at regrets over the last decade, it isn't tied to the things I haven't done, because I've done the important things for myself personally. I think it's more tied to not prioritizing my own mental health and my own peace and stability, and kind of, as I said, the last few years, especially, I've been working with a great therapist for 6 years now, and it took a few years before I even began to understand why that was important. I kind of just stuck to it twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm gonna be going after we're done. But it took a few years before I could really even grasp it. And then within those few years, I really found a place of like peace and harmony, regardless of all of the challenges. And maybe that's really what I would say. This is always going to be hard. It doesn't have to be miserable. Suffering is a choice.
Facts.
And shifting that mindset, you are going to endure pain, right? But pain is temporary. Pain is, okay, I'm tired, or I'm this, or I'm that. But whether you call it joy, or whether you call it happiness, these are the antidotes to that suffering and misery. And really, a lot of that is also just rooted in general gratitude. For me, I'm in a place where, regardless of my own circumstances or how challenging things are, I know I'm playing the right sport. I know what I'm put here to do, and I know that I can make a choice to be happy or to be joyful.
Yeah.
It's not something that the world casts upon me.
Right.
Wow.
I want to break a rule.
Go for it.
I'm gonna take the back and forth thing. I'm gonna take 2 in a row on this one.
I'm all for it.
The importance of mental
I
health
wouldn't have
obviously
noticed anyway.
has been all. It's been all over the place for the last 7 or 8. There's been a real awakening.
Yeah.
People are taking it more and more seriously. As a small business owner myself, my wife is a small business owner. You have owned and run and scaled large businesses. I know the detriment to my business when I'm in a bad headspace.
That's right.
It's difficult to be a great leader of men when the leader is shaky. You're technically the foundation, and nothing strong can be built on a weak foundation. How do you reconcile with yourself? And I'm asking you this question as your senior.
Sure, yeah.
Because I don't have the answer to it. How do you reconcile with yourself that, yo, I'm broken right now, and if I don't fix this, I'm going to become not only a detriment to myself, but a detriment to everything I'm building and have built? What was that process for you discovering that, and how do you overcome it?
I don't think it's ever some eureka moment where you realize you're burned out, and this is where people slip into months, years, decades, not taking time to recover and reset. Though a lot of that these days, at least for me, is measured in like KPIs and goals and objectives. And when I start to see my own productivity slip, when I start to see deadlines being missed, either on my end or that of my team, when I'm struggling to sleep at night, when I'm struggling to maintain a good workout regimen and good diet, that's when I know that something needs to change and that I need to reset, and that just pushing harder is not going to do the job.
Right.
I can't say there's a one-size-fits-all solution, but the recovery is as important as the work itself. It doesn't last as long, right? And good thing too. If we needed a 1-for-1 and we had to work 26 weeks and recover 26, that'd be a problem. But so many high-performing people I know haven't taken a vacation in years, and it's not because they can't spend a few $1,000s to go down to the DR and sit on a beach for a week. It's because they feel like the best or the only way forward is through, not acknowledging that in every single sport there's an off season. In every single sport, what sport? Maybe golf. I don't know, but
baseball is questionable,
right? But there's still plenty of
time, yeah.
And as much as I glorify Kobe and his ability to go and walk off a championship win with a 3 a.m. shoot around, that is not at all a normal measure or direction for how you should be handling that. We all need time to recover and reset. So
that sounds like Stephen Covey's PPC principle. You familiar?
I love Stephen Covey. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the whole production capacity.
Oh yeah.
And he uses the golden goose. Like you can spend all your time making sure the goose is healthy, but you don't give him time to lay the golden egg. But then you spend all the time getting the golden eggs, then you wear the goose down. So it's just
a time for reaping and a time for sowing.
Yeah, just keeping it balanced.
Yeah.
So this is just a random question. Because I see you as a guy who can kind of just do whatever. Well, not just that. I've always heard too, especially in the music and stuff like that, where if you just understand the principles of business, really, there probably aren't too many sectors you can't go into and be successful, right? Yeah. So, using our imaginations, I started to say back when we were young, but you're 29.
Hey, you know what, man? I used to be the real young guy in the room, and now there's a lot of room. I've been on podcasts with a 22-year-old host.
Right, for sure. Yeah, we're still talking 7 years. I'm like, you're quite literally my son. But anyway, a CEO calls you up, says, look, I've seen you. I love what you're doing. I'm looking for a successor. I want you to be. What company would that have been from for you?
What company would I dream about running?
Sure. Like that call came today. He's the CEO of what company?
I think I would say more broadly by an industry than a specific company. Though maybe that's not the answer you want. I can think about it a little better. But there are a few companies that I think are truly revolutionizing how life happens.
It's fair.
We're seeing a lot of that in AI. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think we're seeing a lot of that in the coming years in transportation, and the power that self-driving cars have to really revolutionize our lives. I mean, whether I'm supposed to or not, the truth is that my Tesla drives me to work, and I readily have a book out, or I'm answering emails, and there's so much gains in productivity there. I would love to go get involved in one of those sectors.
Okay.
I think sitting here speaking on somebody else's company and speculating that I can run it better almost goes against my own core.
Well,
because
he gave you an out. He says they called you to make you their success.
Right. I know that.
And here's the key thing. So. I don't want to. Let's not assume that you can run it better.
Yeah.
But there may be some ideas that you'd be bringing in to keep it running or to take it in a new direction. And
I love how you've danced around this, though. I mean, you've given us a lot without giving us anything.
It ain't kind of an answer.
Sorry. Politics. That's no.
Whoa.
No.
We were about to go. I was like, you're about to be
Hell no. Absolutely not.
Yes, sir. So you'd never run for office?
Absolutely not. No,
Okay.
I would never run for office.
Okay.
Now, I wouldn't mind having some influence over a governor or a president.
Sure.
But, you know,
Yeah.
that's his own story.
That he just said so much. So
Sure,
we're
he
gonna stop
did.
there.
I got documentaries running through my head and everything right now.
Since we're not going to actually get to an answer on that, I'm going to ask
Yeah.
you something that's another throwback to the last episode because we ran out of time to get to it. So, in another rapid fire question,
Yeah.
when he asked you dinner with Dead or Alive, that got pretty funny. I think you said Steve Jobs, which absolutely amazing choice. But you also kind of ended with it would have been Warren Buffett if it couldn't have been.
Yeah.
Those are two very different
Yes,
minds,
completely.
two very different geniuses in their respect. What's I don't even know how to actually verbalize it. Why are they so far apart
Yeah.
on the spectrum for you, but they both seem to have the same equal weight in what your choice would be?
Yeah, I have a lot of reverence for both of their approaches, and I try to learn as much as I can from either one. With Steve Jobs, he was a very unreasonable person, right? But reasonable people never really accomplish a whole lot. When you can smile and nod, you're going to go with the status quo, and there's nothing really more to it. Steve was somebody who managed to take risks to simplify incredibly complicated problems, bring forward a vision for a world through technology and this great big revolution, but also know how to get the best out of people. And this is something people overlook. They try and reduce down a person to one genius. But the most brilliant people are kind of the combination of a few different really brilliant things. Like, I have no patience for a lot of Elon's antics these days, but the truth is that Elon Musk is one of the best delegators and managers on the planet. Elon Musk, outside of his own ability to solve highly complicated problems, his own ability to understand how technology can change the world, to engineer, like these are all genius level things. But if you don't know how to also build an army of people who are incredibly talented and brilliant, you're talking about 4 major multi-deca billion-dollar companies or centi-billion-dollar companies, and yet he manages to do, well, again, complicated these days, but he's built all of this because he surrounded himself with really powerful people.
Sure.
Steve Jobs is similar. And, when you look at the story of Apple and you look at Jony Ive, who, led all the design and is one of the really all-time greats in product design, when you look at the different members of Apple's team, Steve was able to attract the world's best, to push them and allow them to perform at a level that nobody else could.
Right.
And also bring in that vision.
Yeah.
Right?
You use the word attract, which I think is I would use the term poach in some situations. But
Sure.
I will ask you this. Attract or poach was the method that Steve did because he absolutely did it. Warren did it through acquisition, in a sense. Softer touch, maybe brute force behind the scenes, in a sense. Which methodology do you actually identify with the most?
Warren's genius is in his own, I think, pure intellect, the IQ,
No question. Sure.
paired with his EQ.
Okay.
Steve Jobs.
Exactly what I was going to say. That
Yeah.
was the difference between the two.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Steve Jobs was an incredibly complicated figure and very difficult to work for, but he found hard driving people with him. And Warren's no slouch either, but the way Buffett has approached business is with this really long time horizon,
Yes.
right? And in saying you don't have to take 100 shots. You can of course he has over the years, but my point is it's about efficiency, right? Of your own energy.
Yep.
And this is something that in the next stage of my career, I'm taking a more measured approach with. Right? I spent all these years saying yes to everything. Just go, 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 go. At this chapter,
The Richard Branson method.
that's actually
Absolutely.
the perfect analog,
Yeah.
right? And if you have the stomach for it and you're willing to do it for decades, like you'll find your wins. I mean, Branson was, I think it was over $100 million in revenue. He was speaking to business class and he didn't know what net profit was.
Yeah. Absolutely
Still
insane.
shocking, but
Yeah.
yeah. Warren is so much more calculated and balanced and stable in making decisions and asking himself, what is this going to look like in 20, 40, 60 years from now? That kind of discipline and that kind of ability to dispel the urgency. Like, I don't know about you, I am naturally in a hurry. That's who I am. People are different in that way.
Yeah.
I'm naturally in a hurry. Warren Buffett, to me, is such a good role model of putting that aside and knowing that you don't have to have all the answers today, but you need to be studying it so that when you do take that shot, like, he's a sniper.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's me all day.
Absolutely.
And when that balance we talked before about the whole planning paralysis,
Yeah.
that's the balance I need to find, because I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. Every shot I shoot, I want it to be boom. And once we're at the end, I want another rapid fire.
Okay,
At the end,
right on.
okay. What I want to, one thing I'm finding is, it seems like the more successful a lot of these people are, they tend to lean a little bit more towards the a-hole side of the meter.
Yeah.
At 29 years old, accomplishing what you've accomplished, I'm not going to be sitting here and be naive and act like you just run around here being like Santa Claus. So,
Are you a jerk?
so
Is that what we're getting at?
people working at you, people working with you, if you were to step outside of yourself and be objective, which I feel you completely can be,
Yeah.
would you say, I wouldn't be surprised if my team called me an a-hole?
That's an interesting question.
Or do you feel not?
Not in this last chapter. I can say that with certainty. Yeah, you attract more flies with honey. But
I'm sorry, the 29 years old, the last chapter thing, it just keeps...
Wait, he just needs
I know what he means.
recent.
I know what he means. And when I keep jumping on that age thing,
Yeah.
it is an admiration.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure
I
that's
don't-
never misconstrued.
But I mean, Stone, you all-
it is an admiration for sure.
You downplay how many chapters you've had as well, though. I also admire the fact that you can admire somebody else's, but you've had 4, 5, 6 yourself.
Someone just told me that last week. It's so funny you said
But
that.
you don't get here without going through these
Through
different
ish, right, right,
seasons,
right.
right? Again, I bring so many things back to sports, but in business, our careers are longer, right? The time horizon is longer.
Right.
So I look at a season as being a few years at a time. That's the way I see it.
Okay.
And so over,
Makes sense.
from 17 to 29, I've had these different seasons, right?
Yeah.
If you look at them as a couple years, I've had
love
6
that.
different seasons in companies. And this was a difficult season, but one that I can tell you with certainty my team would not have described me as an asshole.
Right.
I've questioned whether I needed to lean further back in that direction, because 10 years ago, I did have an employee who picked up a bistro table outside of one of my locations and threw it at I was driving a Toyota RAV4 at the time, but threw it at my windshield. I didn't know how to manage people. I didn't know how people really worked. And I was demanding and hard driving. But it's like anything else, man. You could push people and you could be the asshole, but running a business and employing people, like, you have a family. It's what is, there's no other way around that. And yeah, you can be difficult, but people either love you for that and want to ride with you as a result,
Yeah.
or they're not a good fit.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff.
Yeah. No, I do.
That's what you got?
That's it.
Rapid fire?
Rapid fire? Rapid fire.
Rapid fire, baby. All right, here we go. 5 of them. All right. Would you rather live with stress and anxiety and know everything, or live in the bliss of ignorance?
Stress and anxiety, know everything.
You're given the choice of 3 superpowers. You can only pick one. Would you rather be able to be invisible, be able to read people's thoughts, or time travel?
Read people's thoughts.
Of course.
That way I can read the thoughts of the person that knows how to time travel. All right.
More wishes.
Right. All right. The one thing about your personality or character that you would change?
I would want to be less emotionally invested in people.
Why?
That's an episode.
It's a liability.
God dog it. And it's a burden. Jesus.
Every time you say yes to somebody, their problems become yours.
Man,
That's-
oh, man.
Absolutely.
Great answer. All right. Kids or no kids?
Kids. Well, not now, but
Right.
yeah.
All right, last one. If you could be Black, Hispanic, or East Asian for 1 year, which would you be?
Dog, I live in Atlanta. What kind of question is that?
You've traveled the world, too.
Yeah, okay. What kind of question is that?
I don't know. I just want to laugh. I guess.
Yeah,
Because if you say one, you can't answer a question like that without there's some type of driving force for answering that. That's not just a random pick.
okay,
one.
fine. You want driving force? I'd be Black. I have the utmost reverence and respect for Black culture, being Jewish and being a Russian immigrant. That my parents were. Our culture is defined by stories of adversity and hardship, and even thousands of years ago in slavery. And so there's there's a respect and admiration I have for what it means to be black in America and pushing through a lot of societal marginalization and a country that is dead set on pretending like hundreds of years of oppression didn't end just a few decades ago.
Right.
I think the culture that has spawned from that struggle, I think some of the successes that have spawned from that culture, and I think the driving hustle and force I can relate to in a way that I can't with.
That's fair.
I'm gonna say this. I already know Stone's gonna turn that into a clip. I'm gonna tell you right now, both of us appreciate you saying it, and what you said was, one, it was deep, it was retrospective and introspective, and I love you for it. No, you don't.
But no, you don't. But no, you don't. But he said something that's key, because we throw this phrase out a lot, but it means something. Because look, black people have a hard time everywhere.
Absolutely.
To be honest with you,
Sure.
it's just at this point it's ingrained. But there is a uniqueness,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
to being black in America.
Absolutely.
And that's the part we can't gloss over. Because there's racism everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's a different struggle of being black in America. That doesn't make me anti-American, right? But it's true. And for you to be able to differentiate that and say that it means you get it.
The question,
a little
what is
bit.
the easiest? And I wouldn't have answered it that way.
Right.
Easiest is not what I
Oh, no,
optimize
for
for.
sure.
Absolutely not.
sure.
Yeah, of course.
I said if you could be one.
Yeah.
And it's fly to be black at the end of the day.
No question.
Yeah. One thing that we do here on Life on Podcast, if we have a business guest or a music guest, we know who they can Google you and find out everything you've done. So we don't always talk about that stuff.
Okay.
We get to know you so that they can get to know you as a
Yeah.
person, because that's outside. So we didn't do a lot of the high level business stuff. So I'm gonna ask my last question as one of those high level business things, and it's gonna be the quintessential what if or what to do. Someone starting their first business now. In this market, what skills do they need to take into right now, 2023? We're coming off of a failed recovery on a recession. We're possibly facing another one. Multiple markets are in turmoil, but there are some opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's
out
a great
there.
time to be an entrepreneur.
What's the skill set or the mindset that they need to take into it, or both?
Yeah. Two things. Obsess over how do I bring value to somebody? And two, how do I reduce risk? This is the key thing. Now, the first one I've always understood. The second took me years to learn. Reducing risk. I was the guy who said, whatever it takes is what I'm going to do. That's a stupid philosophy.
All right.
That's an
Sounds
inefficient
good.
and wasteful philosophy, right? I didn't go and let my dreams die when I was starting a cookie company because I didn't have a location. I went and found one, right?
Right.
I didn't have to lay out any capital either because I didn't have any. I think a lot of the constraints that exist when you are first starting out and going from 0 to 1 are actually really good for you. They force you to be scrappy. They force you to be creative. So, with all that said, in this environment right now, the leaner you can be and the most value that you can go create for your customer, whoever that might be, that is what you optimize for, and that's going to build a great business.
Right on.
Boom. Love it. Life on Podcast. LifeOnPodcast.com. That's where you can find everything about us. Zach, got a website or?
Yeah, find me on Instagram, Zach Zelner, ZachZLner.
Easy enough.
Just Johnny Vaughn, JUSTJONYVAN on all your social medias.
Y'all know what it is. StoneStafford.com. Any and everything about me on there. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Tell a friend. We love y'all. We out. We do it for you. Peace.
So back to what I was saying. What I was saying.